Hi everyone, this is Justin O'Brien, and this video is going to be on defining Army leadership. Now, Army leadership is defined by ADP 6-22, which is a pamphlet called Army Leadership. And it defines leadership as the action of leading a group of people or an organization. It also notes that a leader is anyone who, by virtue of assumed role or assigned responsibility, inspires and influences people to accomplish organizational goals. The ideology of leadership is to provide subordinates with purpose, direction, and motivation to accomplish a mission, and more specifically, to create buy-in. Buy-in is a term that explains how invested subordinates are into the mission, and there are multiple ways of creating buy-in. Buy-in can be created with authority, charisma, or influence. Now, for ADP 6-22, it breaks up leadership into different attributes and competencies. I'm going to spend the majority of this video going over what are the attributes of leadership. Leadership attributes are broken up into 6 subcategories: character, presence, intellect, leads, develops, and achieves. Starting with character, character is who you are, and it's how you act as a person, especially when no one's looking, which can also be defined as integrity. Presence is how available you are as a leader and how available you are to your soldiers, how they see you. Intellect is a lot of your ability to make decisions. Leads is your ability to influence others and also accomplish the mission. Develops is how well you can help other people become better professionals, soldiers, cadets, whatever. And finally, achieves is how well you accomplish the mission as a whole. So going into character, I'd like to start with the different attributes within character. They are Army values, empathy, warrior ethos, and discipline. The Army values are remembered by the acronym LEADERSHIP, or LDRship, which is loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, personal courage. Empathy is your ability to put yourself into someone else's shoes and feel what they're feeling and be able to make a decision from their point of view as well. Your warrior ethos, or part of the soldier's creed, are 4 lines that guide how you should act as a soldier or a warrior. And finally, discipline is how you should act in the face of adversity and the response that you need to have, how you should carry yourself whenever you're faced with conflict. Moving on to presence. Under presence, there is military bearing, fitness, confidence, and resilience. Military bearing is how you carry yourself in a military setting, how you act, your professionalism. Fitness is your own personal fitness, how well you can run a 2-mile, how well you can do 2 minutes of push-ups, how well you can do 2 minutes of sit-ups. Confidence is your ability to carry out the mission with acuity and your overall intelligence when it comes to supporting yourself. And then finally, resilience is your ability to persevere through any adversity or problems that you might face. Under intellect, which is another subcategory, you have mental agility, sound judgment, innovation, interpersonal tact, and expertise. Mental agility is your ability to make decisions quickly and on the spot. Sound judgment is your ability to make the right decision. Innovation is your ability to create new solutions to problems. Interpersonal tact is your communication skills at the individual level with other people. And then finally, expertise is how well you know a topic, or how well you can explain concepts with that topic. Leads, one of the other subcategories, is going to be your ability to lead others, build trust, extend influence beyond the chain of command, leads by example, and communicates. So under all of these categories, we have leads is the central topic amongst all of them, but for leads others, that's basically your ability to create buy-in, to get people to buy into your mission and make them realize that they want to help you and you want to help them equally. That segues into building trust. So in order to create an environment where you're leading others, you have to create a mutual level of trust. Trust is the bedrock of the Army as a whole. And extending influence beyond the chain of command means that it doesn't necessarily mean that you're influencing your direct subordinates. So you're not necessarily telling your subordinates what to do and they follow you, that's not all that leadership is. If you're extending influence beyond the chain of command, that means that you have created a persona or a particular demeanor that affects people that aren't necessarily within your chain of command. They might listen to you or follow your example because they respect you as a person. Finally, leads by example and communicates are the last two under leads, and leads by example doesn't necessarily mean that you lead from the front. It can mean that you lead from the front, and oftentimes does, but leading by example is leading in a pivotal position. A leader should always be with his or her troops or his or her subordinates, but also in a position where he can create the most influence. So if you're leading a practical exercise and you find that it helps for you to go first before your soldiers and show them what it looks like to do it right, then that's where you need to be. But if you find that you can make the best decisions and help your people out the most from a perspective where you're watching it happen and watching it unfold, that's where you need to be. You need to be in a pivotal position. And then finally, communicates is under that category as well, because your ability to communicate effectively and efficiently is going to be a huge determinant on how well you can create buy-in within your soldiers. Develops is the next subcategory. Under this category are creates a positive environment, prepared self, develops others, and stewards the profession. So first, starting with creates a positive environment. No one wants to work in an environment where they feel that their leadership is toxic and that what they do is not appreciated. So a lot of tools that you can use for this are: 1, humor; 2, appreciative language. So make sure you're thanking and appreciating what your soldiers are doing for you or what your subordinates are doing for you. And also creating a way of making sure that they feel that they're appreciated within the system. Under prepared self, you want to make sure that you are the most prepared possible. So what an example of this would be is if you go to a training event and you conduct an after-action review or AAR, having a notebook and paper, preparing yourself to take notes to make sure that you can improve yourself in the future, is an example of being prepared, or an Army leadership quality as prepared self. And then we have develops others, which goes into how well can you prepare others to take your place. So at all times within Army leadership, you should have your subordinates and your superiors know what's happening with you. So your subordinates need to be able to take your place in the case that you can no longer function as a leader, for whatever reason. Whether you have to go perform another detail or whether you are taken out on the battlefield. You have to make sure that people below you know what you're doing and people above you know what you're doing. Finally, with stewards of the profession, you need to make sure that you are representative of Army values. You need to make sure that you are showing others and developing others and letting them know what it is like to be a soldier, what it is like to be an officer in the United States Army. The last subcategory, as I mentioned before, is going to be achieves, and the only attribute under this category is gets results. So this is actually one of the most important attributes of a leader. Everything that I just mentioned under ADP 6-22 Army leadership attributes and competencies is important, but gets results is, in my opinion, the most important, because as a leader, nothing matters if you do not get results. The first line of the warrior ethos is, "I will always place the mission first." That being said, you should always place the mission first when you are considering any task. So if your task is to conduct a 6-mile road march with your troops, then everything else you should center around that mission. That's your commander's intent. That's what you need to accomplish. So that is the most important leadership attribute, is if you can complete the mission or not. Okay, so I'm going to actually segue into an AAR. At the end of each video, I'm going to conduct a brief after-action review, which is what AAR stands for, in order to get feedback for further videos and also to give you an idea of how this process works. So, to start an AAR, you summarize what was supposed to happen based on the plan. So, my plan for this video was to create a small definition of leadership and then get into the leadership attributes and competencies in order to explain how you will be assessed in ROTC and how leadership can be defined at a more acute level. Then the next step of the AAR is to explain what actually happened. So what actually happened with this video is that I went into detail with what a leader is. I talked a little bit about what leadership is defined as, and then I went over each of the individual attributes and competencies within ADP 6-22. Now, after you have defined what should happen and what actually happened, you will go next into improves and sustains. So the format for this is improve blank leadership attribute for this reason, or sustain blank leadership attribute for this reason. So I will give an example. Sustain sound judgment. If I said sustain sound judgment, that means that I did a good job in sound judgment by making this video in order to help the person that asked me to make this video. Now, another example would be improve expertise. So improve expertise would be if I got information wrong or did not explain well enough the different leadership attributes and competencies. Another thing that I could say is that if I did not explain it well enough, it would be improve communicates. So you want to use each of the leadership attributes because you can tie every action that you make into a leadership quality. Leadership is not a characteristic or trait that people are born with. It is developed. Some people naturally have more leadership based on how they were raised, their personality, but others need to develop it. And so if you break down everything that you do well and everything that you don't do well into a leadership characteristic or attribute, then you can realize what you need to work on to become a better leader. That's all I have for you today. Please like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I will see you later. Bye.